Richard from Aquicore here. If you're an ESG or sustainability professional, you've probably experienced challenges with data. If that's the case, don't worry, you're certainly not alone. At Aquicore, we've designed and implemented many portfolio data capture projects for clients. To build a successful data strategy, we've found that you must first have a clear understanding of the types of data sources that make sense for the assets and lease structures that you're managing. You also need to know your business objectives for the data. Not all data is created equal. What you hope to accomplish will impact the types of data you need to gather. Bottom line, the data accessibility and the desired use for that data will dictate what solutions should be implemented. In this series, we're going to walk you through the most common utility data collection options you have when designing a data strategy for your portfolio. We'll explain the pros and cons of each data source, which asset types they apply to, and their main use cases. Let's dive in. We're going to get started by exploring one of the very first data sources you might encounter in your ESG journey: utility bills. Utility bills are a common starting point because you often won't need to do anything to start collecting them. If the lights are on in your buildings, your utility providers are already sending bills to somebody. Bills also provide the basic level of data required for ESG benchmarking and reporting. That is, whole building aggregate energy consumption rolled up into monthly increments. There are a few caveats here, however. First of all, it's not always easy to get utility bills for every type of asset. Multifamily, retail, and industrial assets in particular, these tenants are typically responsible for paying for their utilities directly under triple net leases. This means that their utility bills might not be accessible data sources for you. Additionally, if you want to collect and report at the fund level or the portfolio level, dealing with the individual bills for every property can be very daunting. Manually analyzing a year's worth of bill PDFs for all of your assets is error-prone and time-consuming work that can create a lot of headaches for you and your team during the annual reporting cycle. You can always ask your property teams to enter this data manually into a spreadsheet or other system of your choosing, but that also carries risks as well. Finally, if your ultimate goal is to improve the performance of your assets because you've set targets for portfolio energy reduction, for example, bills aren't going to provide the level of data you need to drive decisions that will improve energy efficiency. For that, you will need access to more frequent real-time data. We're going to cover that in part 2 of this series. All that said, utility bills are still an important part of the picture. They offer valuable information about cost and spend that you can't really get anywhere else. They also can be used alongside other data sources to give you the full picture of the portfolio's energy performance, including areas like demand, rates, administrative fees, and other line items that are important to understand and manage. If you want to figure out the payback period of a big capital improvement or identify the assets where it makes sense to deploy solar, you're going to need information from your utility bills. With that in mind, here are our top 3 tips for successfully managing utility bills at the portfolio level as part of your overall data strategy. Tip number 1, do invest in a technology solution to automate your utility bill management. This is an area where technology can really give your team a boost because manually administering utility bills can be a very time and labor intensive process and takes away from more high value activities that you and your team can be working on. At this point, there are many providers out there, Aquicore included, that can automatically pull your utility bill data into a system of record and even run analytics on it to save you some more time. If you're currently outsourcing this work to consultants who intake and manage your bills for you, there's probably a more cost-effective solution out there. Tip number 2, do be proactive with your tenants when it comes to utility bills. If any of your assets have triple net leases, get ahead of it. Pursue green lease provisions and utility letters of authorization where possible, so that you give yourself access to this important source of data in the future. Your tenants probably already have sustainability goals of their own at this point, so you can make this feel like a very collaborative and outcome-driven process. For more information on how to run this process, check out the Aquicore blog or download our free guide to ESG data management, which you can find in the comments or get in touch with us directly. We help our clients navigate these conversations every day. And finally, number 3, don't rely exclusively on bills as your primary source of data. For one thing, there are probably going to be certain assets where you just can't get this bill data at all. It's also important to remember that bills aren't always accurate. Bills have errors more often than we'd like, and technology doesn't always do a perfect job of scraping the information. Bills are an important part of the data coverage strategy for all the reasons that we've discussed, but by backing them up with other sources of data, this ensures that you'll be able to identify and act on opportunities to promote energy efficiency, and that you can be confident in the numbers you put into your annual ESG disclosures. In essence, you can supercharge the effectiveness and reliability of utility bill data by pairing it with real-time data. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll be covering the highly accurate and highly accessible data source, real-time meter data.